you're what are you? And she said, use your imagination. I said, are you an angel? And she goes, nope, I'm eating grilled cheese. But she kept when after I had said that and she denied being an angel, she kept coming back to it in the conversation, right? And being like, if I was an angel, which one would I be? And she kept saying things like that. And I kind of just ignored it or whatever. And then she finally was like, pick an angel for me, pick an angel. She's like, don't even think, just look at it. And if I was an angel, which one would I be? Look at this list of angels and tell me. And I went, Aniel. And she was like, yeah, that would be the one I was if I was. But every time I share knowledge, I get taught a lesson. I was like, what the heck does that mean?
Hey everyone, this is Rye. And normally we jump right into it, but I think it's important that I tell you some things that have been going on here. So during this episode, I had some strange occurrences happen. Also, to say that I had strange occurrences on the previous episode as well, electrical problems. And now this episode, it seems to ramp up. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of the issues that I'm facing doing these episodes, which is very strange. So during the recording, about three-quarters of the way through, when I was talking with Sal, a bird hit the wall right near where I was recording and died, which was very, very strange. I've never, ever had that happen when I've been recording outside there, which was crazy. Now, when I started to, I downloaded all the files and I started to work on them. And getting into the file, the very beginning of it, the audio was extremely distorted, and that never happens as well. It was popping and crackling. The audio was out of sync with the video, which was crazy. So I had downloaded a separate audio file, and I was able to. Well, you'll see in the video where I actually you don't have me you don't see me talking. I've put up some pictures there, and I just have the audio playing, so we don't have that issue. About a minute in talking to Sal, it syncs up. So there was that issue. Then, when I would finish editing the whole video, literally just finished, and gonna hit save, the power went out. I don't have a battery backup, and my computer, that was it. And I lost it, but luckily at least it does some autosave, so I was a couple steps behind. So I was able to, finish what I needed and start rendering it. Now I'm rendering it, and there's literally a couple minutes left, and usually rendering takes a couple hours. So what happens at this point? The power goes out again, right at about the 2 minute mark. Very peculiar. It's not uncommon right now for the power to go out because we're having issues, but it's just at those specific moments. They're very, I don't know, just at these peak moments that it would be great if it didn't. So it was very strange. Well, with that, let's get into this interview. In 1954, John Allen Zegras arrived at Haneda Airport in Tokyo with a passport from Torred, a country that doesn't exist. Was he a traveler from another dimension or a living paradox challenging our understanding of reality? Hi, I'm Rai, the Codega, and tonight we'll add another fascinating story to my Codex of Curiosities. We're going to be diving into an extraordinary tale or two from my good friend Sal, and maybe, just maybe, by the end of this episode, you might be questioning your own reality. Now, if you want to help out the show, here's a few ways to do that. Stop by my Patreon and check it out. Maybe there might be a tier there that you want to help and support, or you can deck yourself out in some of my merch from my Printify store. You can also become a member on YouTube. I also have a wish list on Amazon, and you can really help me out. And finally, you can share the show, or like, or comment, or all of the above. All the links can be found in the show notes. And with that, I think it's time to get into this, and let's bring Sal to the stage. Sal, welcome to Codega's Codex of Curiosities.
Hello, Ryan. Hello, Codega. It's wonderful to finally be here, man. It's good to see your face.
Yeah, I know. We haven't really talked face to face for quite a while. Like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. We used to get together with Graham from Grimerica and play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely. And that was our characters, too, right? It wasn't really us.
Yeah, fair enough. Sometimes it's an extension of ourselves, though, in a way.
Right.
I find that sometimes we do kind of put a little bit of our own. Well, I find I put a little character, my own character, into my characters. So, Sal, how are you doing? Tell us a little bit about yourself and for our listeners and our viewers.
I'm well, thanks, man. I want to thank you real quick for having me on. I appreciate it. You've done some really good episodes so far, and I've been enjoying the show. And real quick, rather than keep this to the end, I think it's very important that in these times we're all supporting independent media. Like if even 40 or 50% of the listeners of a show gave $1 or $2 a month, it could shift the balance of power within the media scape. I think it's very important, and it's more about the exchange of energy than it is the money. So I just want to put that out there for everyone. Independent media, support it. If we all have $1 or $2 we could put aside. Let's get rocking. Um,
I
so that
I couldn't agree more with you.
yeah, I just want to put that out there. No one's putting a gun to my head. It's not for Rye. Just everyone, including
Yep.
Rye, including Kodega. Let's get it done. So yeah, about me. I go by the name Salvatore Antithesis. You can find me on Instagram. It's Salvatore_Antithesis. I kind of I grew up on the East Coast. I moved around a lot as a kid. Um, Never really. It was a very bumpy childhood. I kind of always encountered resistance whenever I did. Whatever I put my all into, never really seemed to pan out, and it always seemed to bite back. To For lack of a better term. I mean, I kind of realized later on in hindsight that I just kind of always knew on some level I was being lied to. It's kind of hard to conceive exactly how big the lie is, how big the programming is, how much we have to unlearn to see the truth. But it came to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. I would go down all these paths. I fell for every trick in the book harder than most. And I think that's a little bit of why what happened to me, what I'm about to get into and discuss with you, happened to me because I think it gives me a degree of relatability to people. Um, I'm exactly in the middle of my life, but I'm still in my 30s, so I don't think I'm old enough for young people to find me unrelatable, but old enough that old people aren't going to think I'm just a young idiot with no life experience, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So yeah, that's kind of my breakdown here. I guess it'll make sense more in a moment when we get into it. But I did have pretty crazy, I guess, supernatural, if you want to call it that, communication experience, close encounter. It was very hard to deny. As you'll hear, I tried audibly to deny it multiple times, and I kind of said, "Screw you, this is happening. You're not ignoring this." I mean, I'm paraphrasing, half joking, but
Yeah.
it made it very clear that something was communicated with me.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, that's me. I just kind of I've always kind of been into truth, and somewhere in the last decade, it's hard to pinpoint that exact moment, but I basically turned my life over to this path, to the pursuit of truth, to kind of like getting out of the maritime law system. I don't know how familiar that could be, kind of controversial. That's one of those things that
That
people,
is, yeah.
yeah,
I do have a friend back in Canada who used that and was able to circumvent the judicial system
yeah,
quite well. Hmm.
yeah. It's definitely real, but people they cling. It's very hard to get that over. It's just hard for them to fathom that they've done all this stuff in life and they didn't really have to. They can't face that they've been fooled by it.
Yeah.
I can't possibly be fooled by this. And it took me, even after I heard about it, I went back and forth on it for probably a couple of years before I really was like, wow, this is real. You know,
Yeah, yeah, I know. The first time I heard about it, I actually was watching a movie called Kymatica by Benjamin Stewart,
let's
and
check
that's when
that
he,
out.
yeah, and that's when he brought up the maritime admiralty law, and I was like, what? And then you start to hear it a little bit here and there, and yeah, and then there was a guy back in Calgary, Alberta, Joe. He used it to he used it to beat some charges.
Yep, yep, you can do that. Basically, they our birth certificates make us a corporation to whom the government interacts in contracts. That's basically and then you can get into like the English occult aspect of it all, like a corporation, a corpse, a
Yeah.
civilly dead entity. Like it has to. That's why they take our footprint when we're born, the sole of your foot,
Ooh.
soul, Vatican. All the birth certificates go to the Vatican. It's very wild stuff. It's so big, And that's another thing too, is you don't even need a boogeyman. You don't have to fight these people. No one's stopping you from doing this. That's another
Hmm.
thing too. Everyone thinks you have to topple the enemy. It's like, no, you just got to withdraw your consent. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, you just don't contract with them. I don't contract
Exactly.
with you. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's another thing too, that you can see that there's something to it, because you start seeing these videos. Like I saw one my cousin had sent to me. He's kind of my little protege with all this stuff. In Utah, I think it was, where a kid got pulled over. They said, "I'm a sovereign citizen," and they shot him dead. But of course, they don't show that the shooting, of course. But
Yeah.
it's not. You're not a sovereign citizen. It's not what it is. The whole point is to get away from citizenship. It's maritime law, citizenship, ship.
Mm.
A mother. Okay, a mothership unloads his birth at the dock. A mother births child at the doctor. It's very crazy stuff. But I'll leave it alone for now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. We definitely, maybe another day we're gonna have to get in that. Maybe when I do
Yeah,
one of
it
my
all
lives, have you come
connects.
on.
It all
Yes,
connects, man.
I'm down
I'm
with
not like
that.
going down a random stream here. It all connects. I think you understand that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Of course.
Yeah. So yeah, man. If you want, I guess I'll start with this. I left Colorado and I came back to Philadelphia for the birth of my second niece. And I kind of just been hanging around here since. And I just had an intuition not to leave. I've been back and forth through a couple different places, but kind of been hanging around here for like a year. And it all made sense on the 4th of July why I didn't leave. But I bring that up because a couple months after I got here, I had my first kind of mystical visionary download experience. And it started out with lost time. I lost almost an hour and a half of time. I left the house to get a
Wow.
breakfast sandwich. That's the last thing I remember. And I woke up in my driveway with the door open. Like I don't know. I don't know if I was asleep or what happened, but that's just where the consciousness started and ended. It was, in the driveway with door open. Left the house, driveway door open, breakfast sandwich wrapper next to me. It was an hour and a half later. That was it.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So I was like, that's a little weird. So the next day, I kind of just started getting it downloaded. It started with one bolt, and it just kept coming and coming and coming.
And
And
and, and when you say download, what do you mean by download?
that's a
Can you
good
expand?
question. Kind of, I guess it's considered just a bolt, I guess, for lack of a better term, a lightning strike of information from the
Yeah.
ether. Would that
Okay.
that does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay,
100%.
it's
I
kind of hard
have
to
a
articulate.
I have a good idea of it, but there might be other listeners or viewers as well
Right,
who
absolutely,
maybe just need to
absolutely.
know. Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
this download of information that is coming to you. Yeah, okay.
yeah. I
Okay.
wasn't downloading something on my computer. Yeah, it was me. It was some kind of download that came from the ether, the collective unified field, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that came to the point where it wouldn't stop. It went on for a good couple hours, just kept coming, and eventually, like the darkness of the information I was getting was too much, and I was on my hands and my knees, like I want this to stop. Like this is too much, and I kind of realized this isn't a good experience, because this isn't a good being. It feels like after a while, because it was
Yeah.
kind of like um, it was very not, not quite euphoric, but it felt manipulative. Does that make
Mm.
sense? Like
Yep. Yep.
and it took me a while to realize this, but I eventually got it. And I thought it was about New York, but it ended up being there's a lot of fire and death and all the cities, and Maui ended up burning like 2 weeks later, or a little less than 2 weeks later. So I don't know if that was it. I'm not going to say I saw that future, but that was part of the vision I got.
Okay. Okay.
So I start with that to tell you nothing happened. I kind of forgot about it. It's almost exactly a year later.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Thank you for my mind. I was thinking it was this July or this time or
No,
around this
this was a
time, but
year.
no,
Yeah, this was
this is a year
right after
ago.
I got to Philly. Yeah, this was.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been in Philly for a year, and this past 4th of July, whatever, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks
Yeah.
ago, whatever it was, that's when I had the second experience, which was much more profound. Um, it started out with another download. I got another mystical download from the ether or whatever, and this one was very intense information. The kind of stuff that you hear people talking about, and they get mob lynched. It's just too much for people. They can't. I think I forget who said it. But there's a quote: "If you tell me the truth, you better make me laugh, or else I'll kill you." Right? So it was kind of like that. That's what it reminded me of.
Yep.
And later in the night, I was just kind of processing it. And I like there's a couple people I like to write things out. I'm a writer. It's how I kind of process things. So I
Okay.
was texting I started texting a friend about it. Someone who I met on Instagram, which is why I brought up my account.
Hmm.
Very interestingly, I'm not going to say who it is, so don't ask. You'll see why. Um,
Fair enough.
so I started texting to her about this randomly. I hadn't spoken to her for a couple weeks. It's just someone I met on Instagram. I thought it was someone who respected my work and just wanted to know more. So eventually, after talking on Instagram, we exchanged phone numbers. We started exchanging content, information, questions, things like that. All of this nature, of an esoteric nature.
Yeah.
So I started texting her about the download, about what the information was, and she goes, "Absolutely." I don't know why I texted her. She instantly agreed with me, so put that aside. Put that in the back of your head.
Okay.
So later that night, this is the 4th of July night, and for some reason I can't sleep. It's approaching 2:30 in the morning. I kind of just get up and start pacing, just thinking about the download, and I start having these thoughts in my head, that are it's kind of going through. I don't want to say synchronicity, but it's kind of just going through these thoughts, and the download's getting more clear because it doesn't really. It's not very clear. If I never had one until a year ago, and the second one was only my second time, obviously. So it's not like you just get the information and you know it. Like it's very hard to process sometimes. It comes in it's not in language, if that
And
makes sense.
okay, that's interesting. So and this download, are you going to get into what the download is, or are we?
Aspects of it and aspects of it and what it concerns, but the actual information is, I got to figure out a way to get this out in a way that's not just saying it, because I believe
Yeah, so
humans.
because it's kind of almost like a hammer, you trying to, it's
Exactly.
like blunt force. You're like here,
Yes.
and it's too difficult. You have to kind of like slowly feed it out. Be gentle with it, is what you're saying.
100%. And sorry, I shouldn't say that. I hate saying that. Yes, you're absolutely right. Right. It can be a little too much, and I think humans truly communicate in symbolism,
Mm.
archetype, and story. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so I think that's why control of images in movies is so important, and why truth in plain sight comes in films.
And you know what's crazy is a couple episodes before this one, when this one releases, I will have a episode released about movies and symbolism in movies.
I think it's Robert Sullivan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
With
he's
what?
he's
Sorry.
great. What's that?
With who? Sorry.
You said Robert Sullivan, isn't that who it's with?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
he's great. But yeah, the movies are it's movie magic. It's the
Yep.
magic of Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Hollywood was the wood the druids used to make their staff, their wands out of.
There wants out of, yeah. I brought that up in that episode as well. Exactly.
Right. So yeah, they truly. So I believe that's kind of how I have to figure out how to get the information out. Um. So I was pacing very late at night, and all of a sudden the TV turns on by itself. Okay. A little
Okay.
weird. A little weird. It just starts flicking through the channels. I'm house sitting at my parents' houses because I don't have cable, but they do. So I would never it would never flip through the channels in my house because I don't have cable. But point being, it was going a million miles an hour like an automatic machine gun, like quicker than you can make the channels go if you're holding the remote down or pushing as fast as you can with your thumb. So I went,
Okay.
all right, my dog's on the remote, must be. I still pace to kind of ignore it. It goes on for about a minute, and it stops on a news clip of a just this beautiful nebulous heavenly body in space. It's these structures that they're just beautiful colors. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about,
Yep.
nebulas and things of that nature. And all I hear is NASA sending communications to this celestial heavenly body. I guess they're sending radio waves. That's all it said. And then it switched by itself to an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants, which I've never seen in my life. Okay, and it starts
Okay.
imitating everything I'm doing. I'm pacing. I guess there's a lost episode of SpongeBob, and this is what it was. And the joke is, it's just him walking for 60 seconds down a road, and there's nothing else. It's just him walking, and it matches my rhythm. I start walking. It's SpongeBob walking. I stop. It goes to like those 80s TV screens where it's just like the color palette.
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
the bars of color. I don't know if our
Yes.
younger listeners will know what I mean. But you can
I
probably
you know
look
what?
it up.
I'm gonna throw that. I'll throw it up on the screen now. So this is
Yeah.
it's kind
Okay.
of like
Perfect.
the color palette, and yeah, it's kind of I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's all you guys do. Yeah. um. So yeah, that came on. So I was like, I was still. This is where I kind of audibly denied it. Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Whatever. This isn't happening. This is just a weird coincidence. And then, okay, dude, it rewound by itself and played the same clip and imitated me in a different, pattern, in a different timing. I stopped at a different time. I didn't stop 3 times this time instead of 2, and it would switch back to the color power when I stopped walking. Switch back to SpongeBob walking when I would start walking, and that was it. I was like, "What in the world?" So like that kind of happened. I was like, "Wow, that was kind of weird." And
That's extremely weird. Like it's
yeah, yeah,
okay.
extremely weird. Perfectly put.
This reminds me of like yeah, there's like some sort of like poltergeist or
Yeah, right.
yes.
And especially with my past experience, I wasn't quite sure it was positive, so I didn't really know what to think.
Mm-hmm.
I was very hesitant. So after that, I don't know how much, because time was, it was just kind of, it's very hard to explain. I don't know how much. Time was almost irrelevant. It's like it didn't exist when this was happening. It's very hard to explain.
Yep.
And I was sort of thinking in my head. Just I did not say anything out loud. These are just thoughts in my head. Okay. And I would have a thought. These were concerning the download that I had. And if it was right, I get, because you'll see it was subtly validating me by almost speaking in super recent synchronicity from the past couple of days. Like anything that had resonated with me from that week, it's like we were having a conversation through the television, like we were having now, and it was speaking to me in my synchronicities, if that makes sense. But I wasn't talking; it was just thoughts. So I would think, and if it was negative, it would go to an emergency broadcast. Like, no, you're on the wrong path. It would cut this is an emergency broadcast test, and then it would switch back it would just go to a random channel that was a synchronicity. Like I saw a video about intuition uh, earlier that day. And it was like the difference between intuition and fantasy is intuition is kind of uncomfortable and it happens at night and it doesn't leave you alone. And fantasy is comfortable. It's almost euphoric and manic to involve just
And
fantasy.
and this would be playing on TV, like telling you this.
Yeah, it wasn't the same video, but it was It was a synchronicity
Okay.
to that. Yes. So
Yes. Okay.
these were just thoughts I was having. Nothing was happening out loud. So that happened again. All of this has to do with the Great Deception or whatever, which a lot of people think is Project Bluebeam or aliens, demons. I try not to believe any of this. I just want to observe and eliminate all I can prove false. Right? I'm not trying to poop on anyone's God or anyone's beliefs.
Yep.
I'm not trying to do it. I'm just a guy pointing to something I had, saying this is the information I got. I just want the truth. I think we're being lied to. And there's a lot more going on, and for some reason, right now it seems like it's getting a lot harder to hide it. Whatever's happening is reality.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
I agree. I would say it's not like things are picking up. It's just becoming more blatantly obvious. Some things are
exactly.
It's being harder to hide things. It's kind of like a lot of these things have always been going on, but now it's more available. It's more there.
I think that's a very good way to put it, right? It might feel like it's picking up, but yeah, I think these things have kind of always been going on, and we're just now kind of being able to become more aware of it. So to go on, this was concerning the Great Deception. So I was having these thoughts about it, and it would clarify them by either broadcasting a recent synchronicity or going to the emergency broadcast signal. So it wasn't really telling me yes or no. It was all still coming from within, if that makes sense. Yep. It was just kind of subtle validation, right? So,
but the TV, but you're being communicated through the TV.
Exactly. And it just kept going. This went on for a good 5 to 10 minutes. And this is why it didn't matter if my dog was on the remote control or not, because he ended up not being, but it wouldn't have mattered because it was just too perfect. It was just too much. It was responding to my thoughts.
Exactly. Wow. That is crazy.
It keeps going, man. It goes on a little bit longer. So
okay,
I kind of
5 to 10. I'm sorry, but 5 to 10 minutes of thinking of questions and then being answered by the TV.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's a very bizarre feeling. It was very hard to explain.
Yes,
and I've never been one. Besides, seeing a UFO. I've definitely seen UFOs at least a half dozen times, but I think everyone kind of has to a degree. But I've
Yeah.
never claimed to have an experience in this level. I've been very open to it. I've been interested in it, but I never thought something like this would ever happen to me.
Okay.
Or so just saying, so it's coming out of my I'm not full of shit alley. Just to, I guess to
Yeah.
validate myself in a way. So I started kind of pacing again because I had kind of like it grabbed my attention. I was almost stopped in shock multiple times.
Yeah.
So I started pacing again and I started thinking, and I'll note now, I told you I fell for every trick in the book rather hard. And so I've put people close to me through a lot of pain in my 20s, through a lot of stupid stuff I did. Now, I was never a terrible person, but it was just a lot of selfishness, a lot of drugs, a lot of just partying lifestyle. It causes pain in people's lives. It leaves wreckage.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It
so
does. I understand.
I've kind of over the last decade. I'm in my late 30s now, so I had tried to shed this, the shame and the negative emotion associated with everything I had done in the past, and I was pacing after this kind of communication experience, and I just stopped dead in my tracks, and in a matter of 90 to 100 seconds, the tears pour out of me like a hose. All this negative emotion is just leaving my body, just gushing out. I'm like almost moaning. It's coming, it's coming out so fast. It was
Wow.
just instant catharsis. I've never experienced anything like it. So, if you remember correctly, I told you about someone I was texting.
Yes. Correct. Correct.
So this whole time, the last few messages I had typed had not gone through. It's like if you have an iPhone and you're blocked, when you send a text message on an iPhone to another iPhone, it says delivered.
Yeah.
If you send it to another iPhone and you're blocked or the phone's off, it just doesn't say delivered. So
Correct.
none of these text messages had gone through. And I kind of had made a joke to her earlier in the day because if you remember, I texted her about the download and she was just very
Yep. Yeah. Of course.
she was very on top of it and very just on point and sharp about it. And at first, I kind of not even. I was kind of more telling the truth than joking, but I wasn't fully believing in it. I was like, "You're what are you?" And she said, "Use your imagination." I said, "Are you an angel?" And she goes, "Nope, I'm eating grilled cheese." Kind of, But then I texted that phone back, and none of the messages were going through. Right.
Okay.
So I texted, and none of them were going through. And I after that catharsis, and telling her she was an angel, I kind of connected them. I was like, maybe, and she okay. I'm still kind of processing this, so I don't have the story down pat. So forgive me. But she kept after I had said that, and she denied being an angel. She kept coming back to it in the conversation, right? And being like, if I was an angel, which one would I be? And she kept saying things like that. And I kind of just ignored it or whatever. And then she finally was like, pick an angel for me. Pick an angel. She's like, don't even think. Just look at it. And if I was an angel, which one would I be? Look at this list of angels and tell me. And I went, Aniel. And she was like, yeah, that would be the one I was if I was. But every time I share knowledge, I get taught a lesson. I was like, what the heck does that mean? So it kind of turns out this person I was interacting with was involved in this experience because the way it ended was I sent a text message like, if she was an angel, she wouldn't be able to tell me because they don't interfere with free will, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing. It has to come from within. They'll subtly nudge, they'll push, they'll validate from within. They won't answer questions directly, which she never did. She was a very strange texter. She said she moved from LA to AZ, but she would never say the cities. It would always be LA, Los Angeles, the Angels, or AZ, Alpha and Omega, beginning and ends. Right?
Oh.
So I picked that, and all these things. I was like, this is her. So the last thing that really validated it was I sent a text that said, ha ha ha, I get it now. I'm a dumbass. This place is hard. Material realm. And it didn't go through. It never got delivered. Nothing. But I was making a reference to me asking her if she was an angel and her saying no, of course not. It's like she can't tell me even if she was, right?
Yes.
So this never went through. The instant it goes through, I put my phone down. I was in the garage smoking a cigarette, I put my phone down on the hood of the car, and Siri blinks on, like bing, bing. I had a podcast going, and it goes to the part of the podcast. It says 3 times, straightforward as I can be, straightforward as I can be, straightforward as I can be. The
What?
second I sent that text message, that was never delivered to that number.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was gave me chills. It was kind of from there that I kind of knew I had work to do, and I started going through the text message.
Yeah.
And I realized that out of nowhere, a couple months ago, she had kept making non sequitur references to Nashville. Like, we should link up in Nashville. Nashville seems cool. So I'm headed to Nashville now, and nothing but faith and intuition alone in the next couple of days.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm going to document and see how it goes, and we'll go from there. I think we have work to do. I think there's I think the Great Deception may be coming sooner than we think.
Wow. This is an amazing story, you know, and it ties into my the last show I just did with Brandon from the Awaken podcast. You know, he talked about following your intuition and just kind of you know, listening to those signs and following those signs. Wow. And so, do you believe that she is this angel, Aniel? What was it? The one?
Yes, Aniel, also known as Haniel, Haniel. They're the same angel, and I still talk to her. It's unbelievable. There's multiple times where she references exactly what I'm doing in the moment. I'm sure it sounds insane. I think I'm talking to an angel, but she has referenced what I'm doing. That's the thing too, is I have so much evidence of this. Like, I have all the messages. I still talk to her. I almost feel like I could prove this, right? Enough that any reasonable human being can look at it and be like, wow, like, I can reference all these things I've never seen before of video clips, you know, exact times they were on. You could go back in the TV guide and see, and then I have all these messages. So I think I was given all this for a reason. And I think it was me, because I don't have anything I'm selling. I'm not trying to push a book. I'm not trying to do anything. Like I said, I'm just a guy pointing. Trying to save as many people as I can from falling for these tricks.
I have a question. Can you spell that angel name again to me?
Yes. A is an apple, N is in Nancy, I is in igloo, E is an elephant, L is in Larry.
Okay. I mistyped it, and I typed in Aniel, Aniel, and that was the 14th watcher of the 20 leaders of the 200 fallen angels. So that's crazy that I typed that in that.
Hold on, how do you spell the one that you put in?
Aniel, I believe.
Aniel.
Yeah, Aniel.
Wow. Yeah, this is Aniel.
Aniel. Okay.
Or Haniel.
Okay, I'm gonna type that in. But that's crazy that I did. Okay, Hanil is also known as Aniel, or Aniel is an angel in Jewish lore and angelology, and she's often included in the list of being one of the 7 archangels. Interesting. Aniel is generally associated with the planet Venus and the archangel of the Seraph, Nisak. Interesting.
Yeah, I'd never heard of her or anything.
Me neither.
I can read you this too.
Yes, please.
Archangel Haniel is known for her connection with passion, grace, beauty, and harmony, guiding individuals towards joy and fulfilling their desires. She offers support and enhancing our intuition and psychic abilities. Whenever you seek spiritual advice or long for emotional peace, Haniel is the angel to turn to.
Straightforward.
Is that not exactly what I went through? Like, that's wild.
That is wild, Sal.
Yes.
I'm still stuck on that TV, you know, the TV changing, like being communicated with the TV and changing the channels and stuff. Wow. And you said that went on for like 5 or 10 minutes.
Probably 5 minutes, yeah. Probably 5-6 minutes.
Jeez. Now, I have a question. And you lost time during that event.
And that's why I know this. I'm much more sure this was a good, because it was very much about not interfering with free will, and it's all about free will.
So that previous one when you had the downloads and
I
then
was all
the like
straight up being given answers and being, it was like
yeah.
this, and this. It was you this. You need to believe this. You need to believe this.
Okay.
And there was never anyone that there was never a being that communicated. It was just it was it's very hard to explain. It was much different. It was slightly telepathic, but it felt much more straightforward. And because I believe the good beings aren't gonna. A lot of people say they don't come to you. You got to go to them,
Mhm.
right? And they don't interfere with free will. That she's never answered questions directly. Um, she still denies now that it's got nothing to do with it, even though she somehow multiple times, even in the past week, like 2 days ago, I woke up and she referenced the exact dream I had. I had a text message waiting from her when I woke up. It was the exact dream I had. Like she had to have known what I was dreaming. It was unbelievable.
Wow. That's really really interesting. And so are you going to share with us some of these downloads then now that you have received? Is there any little slivers of information that you want to share now?
Yeah, I can share a little bit.
Mhm.
It had to do with a lot to do with Christ and the
Okay.
Christ energy, and that we don't need a savior. It comes from within.
Yes.
Um, and think about my name. My name is Christopher Salvatore,
Mhm.
one of Christ and Salvatore Savior in Italian.
Interesting.
And that's
Interesting.
what this download ended up being about.
I see, and I have to agree with you. Like we have been indoctrined to believe that we need to wait and we have to wait for someone to save us. And that in itself is a psyop because everybody's going to be sitting on a couch waiting for someone else to do the work. And nothing's going to happen because you need to save yourself. We have to be our own hero. We have to be our own saviors.
That's it, man. You couldn't. I couldn't put it any better. We might as well hang up now. That's the bottom line, dude. That's it right there. A lot of it, and this is why I'm so tentative because so many people, a lot of Christians. There's a lot of Christian overlap in this niche because
Yeah.
ultimately we were both interested in the truth, but
Yeah.
we the dogma is killing us. So much of it had to do with the word Jesus and what it means and where. I, I'll put this out there. And if you want to cut it, you can cut it. But I'll
No,
just say
no,
it.
go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So the word Jesus itself is an amalgam of Jupiter and Zeus, which is the same entity in Greek and Roman, and it's associated with lightning, as is Lucifer. How did
Okay.
Lucifer get here? With a bolt of lightning. What does Zeus throw? Lightning bolts. Jupiter is Zeus. So Jesus is Jupiter and Zeus. The image of Jesus that we all take for granted,
Yeah.
the long hair, that is Cesare Borgia, son of Pope Alexander VI, who commissioned Leonardo da Vinci, with whom Cesare was in a sexual relationship, to do the image of Jesus in his son's likeness. Cesare also murdered his own brother and impregnated his own sister. The truth is always in plain sight. So I believe this is what the great deception is. It is the second coming. That is the great deception. A loving God demands no worship, bow to nobody. It comes from within. And I think all these people are going to be getting down on their hands and knees when a Jesus figure appears in the sky, and they're going to be worshiping the fallen angels. They're going to be worshiping which is all NASA is. Why do you think all these planets are named this? Jupiter
Yes.
and Mars. NASA is a
Saturn.
cult religion.
Yes.
People don't know it. They're
Yep.
tricking people into worshiping. Belief is worship. They're tricking people into they're synchronizing our consciousness. Why do you think they put these magazines in the grocery store with these stories? Nobody's buying those. The simulacrum is staring back at you, man. The systems that the soul trap is staring back at you. It's observing you back. Nobody's buying those magazines. They're there to get into your consciousness and make sure we're all synchronizing the same words and the same stories. And this is how they exist in our reality. They harvest our belief. And they a great example of it is, I think this is a good way to break it down for normies or people who don't quite understand magic and how it works. Do you recall before the 2020 election? Not that I'm getting into politics at all, because forget that. But
Yeah.
right before Joe Biden announced Kamala Harris being the vice president, do you remember what happened the day before?
I don't.
The wrestler Kamala Harris died.
Get out.
Yeah, you can look it up. It was the day before. So a lot of, and it's very obscure. A lot of people think, and it was all over. The algorithm was all over it. The algorithm of social media. And this was such an obscure wrestler, nobody really remembered until I saw it. I hadn't thought about it in 20 years, you know?
Yep.
And so why? Why is that? It's because they were taking all that Kamala Harris energy, that sympathetic energy, and using a ritual and channeling it into Kamala Harris and making her the VP and taking all that energy and doing God knows what with it. Put
The redirection. You know, they
Yep.
harnessed that sympathy and redirected it.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Fascinating. I find that so intriguing. You know, like I've talked about that in the past, like where it's kind of like these redirections. You know, like and we're talking about movies earlier. You know, so let's talk about Walt Disney. You know, a lot of people believe Walt Disney is actually Frozen, right?
Right.
So when you search Walt Disney Frozen, what comes up now? The
movie.
The movie. Yeah,
Yep.
it's kind of like stealing this attention. Look over here. It's all these redirections, you know. And I talk about like the other psyop that I definitely believe is Q. You know, perhaps Q in the beginning was, you know, good and well intentioned, but it was perverted and stolen and taking you over on this path that I think is just kind of this crazy. Oh, we have to wait for the coming of you know, certain savior. We have to wait for, you know, RFK.
There's that word again, savior.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And everybody just sit tight and wait, you know, where we go one, we go all, and just wait. They're in Guantanamo Bay, you know, everybody's taken care of. Don't worry about it. And that's the biggest thing. It's all about, it's already been done. Trust the plan. Trust the plan. Yeah. Which means don't do anything. Sit down and let things happen. Yeah. Don't fight. Don't fight against anything. Just allow everything to happen, because you need to trust and just sit down. Wait for your savior to come save you. Yeah,
100%, Ryan. I said it again.
Yeah. That's something I always say. I always say 100%. So I'm laughing. You're like, oh, I can't say that. I'm like, oh, that's what I say all the time.
Which is obvious. If I'm agreeing, obviously, I agree.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to say how much of a fraction it is.
No, it's crazy. So what else you want to talk about, Sal? That alone is mind blowing. We can stop the interview right now. But I feel that you have more to share. You know, you have.
Yeah, I mean, we can just keep having a conversation, man. I think it was going like what you were saying about Disney and the redirecting. I think that's very important stuff. I think all of this is tied together.
Yeah,
I do.
I do too. Like this, you know, we're always being misdirected. And you said, okay, we're all, like, it's kind of funny. You did say, oh, we'll see Jesus in the sky and everybody will be like this. Do you feel that maybe that's what Project Bluebeam is? Because I heard that they did that in Iraq. You know, they projected Muhammad and caused a large amount of Iraqi. What's right? This was in the Gulf War.
Okay.
And they projected Muhammad up onto the clouds, and a lot of the soldiers actually laid down their arms and gave up. And you know, it was, and they were able to like move forward, and you know, no casualties. They just all gave up. They surrendered because they saw Muhammad in the clouds.
Yeah, I do think I you know, what's funny is the first download. This is why I mentioned it. The first download was about Bluebeam and how it's nukes and demons. Mm-hmm. And I came away, like I said, I thought it was New York, and that they were going to fake nuke New York. Like the Bluebeam itself was the nuke, not the aliens. Yeah. Like the nuke was, because you can get into Gate of Windsor and our nuke's real and all that's a whole other thing.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But they were going to nuke New York, and the aliens were going to stop it. The UFOs were going to step in and stop it. That's what it wanted me to spread. I was very convinced for a while, for an amount of time that was what was happening. Yeah. So yeah, I find that really. I do now think that it is Bluebeam has a religious aspect to it. I do think so. Yes. Yeah. Because Jesus is in all three religions, right?
Yes, he is. 100%. Ties in all three.
There you go.
And
so I do think it. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So I had just on my last live, which will be like a month and a half ago now. Uh, I had shared a dream that I had actually, and I talked, and it was very reminiscent of a Project Bluebeam of sorts. And it was actually before I even knew about Project Bluebeam. So I'm not going to say like this dream was was like, oh, I read about Project Bluebeam that had this dream. No, this dream was this alien ship actually came into our atmosphere, and the governments decided to use that as that was their signal, and then they attacked Earth themselves, and they blamed it on this alien ship. And by doing that, they were able then to unify the world into a one world government, one world army, and bring everybody together under this false premise. Like, yeah, they got everybody to come together, but it was all under a lie.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, man. The one world that actually tied into mine too. The whole one world government, new world order stuff. First of all, they invert everything. That's what it is.
Yes.
Part of this was telling me that we are in the best way to articulate it I found is an inverted mirror overlay of true creation. Like it's almost like they're harvesting all this energy and creating an astral matrix on top of true creation. And that's why they can say all this stuff. Because like I said, everything is a consent trap. The truth has to be in plain sight.
Yes.
They have to tell us what they're doing, because it's just if they violate free will, they lose polarity. They lose the ability to do what they're doing. It's not even. It's just the rules of the universe. Karma, what goes around comes around. So they have to get consent on some level or another, even if it's just us not saying no. They found. I think that's how they did it. They found a way to turn inaction into a decision that benefits them, if that makes sense. So the one world government, the new world order stuff, is the inversion of the Tower of Babel.
Okay. Yes.
Everyone was split by language, right? So the one world government is reunifying that. So that's why everything's inverted. It's because we are, and that's why they can get away with saying these ancient civilizations didn't exist, like the pyramids in Bosnia and the Atlantis and Tartaria, which has become another QAnon. That's another. Tartaria is a word that emotionally triggers people.
Yeah.
But there's tons of evidence. I don't know what you want to call it, but there's something going on. And I think the Vatican and the Christian church as we know it today, the Catholic Church, all of it, is a remnant of what once was. I think these churches were part of the Tartarian structure, this ancient civilization that was almost worldwide and had metaphysically based technology. And they kind of just founded these cities. They founded these subway tunnels. They founded these churches, and they kind of just took them over. The cathedral is cathode energy. It's all energy. It's all harvesting. It's all tricking us into creating. It's almost they've convinced the bulk of people to use their magic to create a matrix where magic doesn't exist.
Ooh, interesting. To nullify our own abilities. Like I've said that I feel like we are filtered. Somehow we have these filters on us. That's like, or like a governor almost. Like a car has a governor too, so you can't exceed certain speed limits. I feel like the human civilization has some sort of governors on our actual abilities, on our actual capabilities. Yes,
that's exactly what it is. And this is the thing too. Is once you get into this stuff, you start having conversations like this. They're not as I don't make connections as often, but the ones I do are amazing. And it's people who know the same things I did, who didn't read one speck of the same material or see the same podcast or anything. We all came to the same conclusion because the truth is the truth is the truth. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Something's flying overhead. Hold
on. You got some Black Hawk helicopters flying overhead.
Blue beam, blue beam, blue beam.
That's interesting. That's unique. I find it really interesting when those things the synchronicities happen. Like maybe they are watching you, Sal. Maybe they really are above you.
Or is it the simulacrum? The simulacrum is just self-adjusting. It knows we're talking about this and it's going to interrupt it, right? It's the simulacrum itself. It's the matrix. It's the overlay itself.
It is exactly. Like when we were talking, when I was talking with Brad from the Awaken podcast, he was saying how these beings can control electronics because they're in that field. They're in the
exactly, and
we can't
bring up.
Yeah,
because electromagnetic beings.
Yes, And because we can't see them, they're in the realm, which so they can see like the radio waves, our Wi-Fi, and they're able to manipulate that. We're talking about that. We literally lose connection. Like he all of a sudden just freezes. It was exactly at that point that we're talking about that happened, and it was like you're talking about a synchronicity. Well, that was too much of a coincidence. That was definitely a synchronicity on
Right.
that end. Yeah, like
And
something affected that.
That's kind of why I didn't question the TV too much, because the internet reads my mind all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've all experienced that. I've never said it out loud. It puts up a meme I'm thinking about, or it knows. I Google something something totally obscure. It autofills the bar after 2 letters that I'm thinking about, where there's no way anyone's Googling that. You know what I mean? It definitely does that.
Have you ever tried? Now here's a test, and a test for all the listeners and viewers. Think about something like an item that maybe you're going to buy, maybe that you want to buy.
Yeah.
Think about it, and then see if you get this advertisement on Facebook, on Instagram, or something. See if the advertisement pops up. I'm leaning towards that it will. I'm leaning towards that you're going to see an advertisement for it, or maybe not on the Wi-Fi, maybe not on the internet. Maybe it's actually a billboard. A billboard will, you drive by a billboard and boom, that's exactly what you were thinking about, which is interesting.
Yeah. That stuff definitely happens. We mentioned the electromagnetic beings. They exist outside of our, because we can only perceive something insane like 0.4% of the light spectrum or something. It's an unbelievably small percentage. It's under 1% for sure.
Yeah.
So I think part of this download also was that these vaccines or whatever, if you remember the luciferase angle, they were to bring people's that luciferase stuff was to bring people into these bad entities' visible spectrum range. That's kind of something that was part of it that I felt was validated.
So because it was some sort of light thing, like
bioluminescence type thing.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Then we could be seen. We could be seen and more manipulated. And
exactly.
Wow. No. Hang on. Let me rephrase that. Those who took it could be seen.
Yes. Yeah. I think that was part of it. Yeah. More than because everyone thinks it was death and this and that. I don't think they can do these things. I think they have to get our consent. And when they kill people, it's people have taken an oath to them. Like that's why it's so many athletes and actors that die. Because when you take an oath to be in the NFL, to be in the, an oath is an oath. That's a blood oath. That's an oath. That's till death. So if you're giving an oath to these people, that's a form of consent for whatever they want to do to you.
Yep.
So it all starts with consent. It really does.
And there's so much this fine print. There's so much in these fine print that, like we click on so many things and we agree to so many terms and services.
Oh my goodness.
How many of us read that? I never do.
Dude, I saw a documentary years ago. This was years ago. Way more apps now. It said it would take 6 months of our life to read all the apps, read all the terms of service without sleeping, without eating, not stopping. It would take 6 months to read all the terms the average human is subscribed to.
Wow. And what's crazy is, there was an AI one where, and it was a big thing on Facebook. I don't know if it was on Instagram where, you put your face and this is still going on, but there was,
I know
exactly
what you're talking about.
Was one of the first ones. Yeah. Put your face in all these different scenarios and kind of thing.
That's going to facial recognition. Come on.
Right. Yeah. You just giving it up. But in the terms of service, I was watching a show and they actually dove deep into it. The terms of service said that now this company owns your face. They own your likeliness. They own that now, and you've agreed to it. So there is so many things that I think we agreed to that we don't even know that we're agreeing to. And possibly like when you're saying like they have to tell you what they're doing, very much could be in these terms of services that of things that we're agreeing to. And we're just saying, sure, let's do it.
Yep. I think Google years ago did something about owning your soul, and they got caught in the terms of service. Said it was an April Fool's joke or something.
Sure it was.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Yeah. Like that
Pretty
would be
funny joke.
That would be the perfect time to put that in. Actually, yeah. First of all, yeah, pretty funny joke. Like who does that? Who would do that? Like that's extreme.
Not me.
But wouldn't that be the perfect time to actually put that in? And some people who did agree to it or did click on it, they're like, haha, this is a joke. No, it's not.
It's all about the belief. You believe it, is it true? If you believe it really deep in your soul, is it true?
Sorry, Sal, I lost you there for just for a
Oh,
second.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said I think it's about the belief itself that matters. If you believe you lost your soul to them, is it true?
Yeah, it is until you believe otherwise. But
There you
you
go.
know, and I actually think that is something where if you believe that you're going to hell, well, you're going to go to hell because that is your belief, and perhaps you're going to be
You'll create it yourself.
yes, and you're going to be stuck there, tormented until you can come out of that depression of sorts. When some people are stuck in depression, they can't get out because they're so absorbed with it, like they're so into it, and that's what would happen with hell. You just get so stuck in there, and you'll never be able to see another reality because all you know is this pain and suffering, and you don't know anything else anymore after that.
Very true. It's very true. And I think hell and heaven can both exist here. I think heaven's getting a lot harder, which with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
But I think that I try not to believe anything, but I think that we can. I think we have a lot more control than we think. And like you said, we put self limitations on ourselves as a species, as individuals, and we don't need boogeymen. And you were talking about Q, and I wanted to bring up real quick Operation Trust. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No, I have not.
It was pretty much the same thing in Soviet Russia. It was a bunch of military generals, someone who was in with the military, saying they were going to rise up against the communists, and they use it to weed out all the counter-revolutionaries, and they killed them.
Oh, that makes. I don't want to say that makes sense, but wow, like the evilness, the vileness with that to be able to do that, but it worked.
Yep. I like to say the head of the serpent has many forms, morphing in an attempt to keep itself hidden throughout history.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing us that he didn't exist.
Yeah, I think that's, or that he's someone he isn't. You ever heard of Ahriman?
Yes.
I think we've talked about Ahriman briefly here and there, you and I. Ahriman is a entity. Rudolf Steiner talks a lot about him. It's almost like pure scientific materialism with no soul, no conscience. Just pure material-based reality. Like these UFOs are a lot of them, I think, are Ahrimanic beings. They're just very cold and stoic, metal, no angles. Like CERN. CERN is very Ahrimanic.
Okay.
CERN, yeah. Like you see the images of CERN. That cold, unforgiving metal, just that sterile.
Yes, it's sterile metal. Yes,
sterile. Hospitals remind me of Ahriman. So is because is Lucifer the same? Is because Satan just means adversary. So did different beings occupy the role of Satan during different times in our evolution? Is it
like I definitely believe there is Lucifer and then there's Satan.
Yeah, I believe that, I agree.
Yeah,
I think
and that
Ahriman
there's
is Satan right now.
There's Satanists and then there's Luciferians.
Yeah,
I don't want to get too much into that because I definitely believe in the political realm that there a lot of them occupy both sides are in there, and they're the main ones fighting each other right now.
Yeah, because sociopaths can't trust each other. That's why you have these things like the space programs and nuclear programs. It's mutual blackmail. They can't function among each other without something like that's mutually assured destruction. If they, that's the only way they can trust each other.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's absolutely a great way to put it. It's kind of like the Epstein Island. Well, I shouldn't say that out loud too much because this is going to be on YouTube. But there was a lot of blackmail.
Well, do you know my take on that? I don't think Epstein's real. I think it's another truth in plain sight thing. I think it's the same thing with Diddy. I think it's a lot of stuff that a group has done, and they're pinning it all on this one made up character. Because have you seen the video on Andrew Jackson and that Jeffrey Epstein? Like put them next together. Not. I can't even find it anymore. But if you put it next to each other, Andrew Jackson with a $20 bill is Jeffrey Epstein. To wrinkles on the chin, earlobes are the same. It's wild.
What?
Yeah.
But that's a whole new take then as well. Then is it like you talking like time traveler kind of thing or something like that?
Well, no, I just think I think that maybe. I think somewhere around the late 1700s, early 1800s was when they got this mirror or started getting this mirror overlay into place. So I think a lot of the history is made up at that point.
Okay, I
That's
see
what I'm
what you're
saying.
saying.
I don't think it's I don't rather than time travelers. I think it's more made up, or they're homunculi shapeshifters type thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
actors aren't. They say actors like you hear the inverted gender thing. I don't think it's that. If it's anything, I think they're like homunculi, which is like vessels that are created for spirits, for entities to inhabit. I think that's what these actors are. They're just vessels, and different spirits are inhabiting them in different movies.
Ooh, interesting, and including not just actors, also like pop stars and singers and whatnot too.
Politicians, yeah, all that.
Like do you think like the real self, or okay, so homunculus means that they are an empty, but is there also possibilities of ones that aren't empty who move out of the driver's seat and allow another entity to take hold?
Absolutely, yes, for sure. All of that's possible. And homunculi are actually created. That's the difference between them. And I think some people there's a take out there that there's more humans are on Earth than there are individuated souls. So most humans are then become organic portals for entities but I think that's different than homunculi because they were still birthed naturally and they still have souls in a way, but they're just not individuated.
Are you thinking they're more like NPCs, like non-player character, kind of in that realm?
But they can be salt of the earth people. They can be good people. They can be, but they're just very easily led astray, I think.
Okay.
Hive minds type thing.
Yes. Yeah. Then there is a lot of hive minds. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that, but the difference between that and a homunculi is, the homunculi is actually created in this realm.
Yes.
And from start.
For those who don't know homunculi, it could be like a golem. It could be also like the gray aliens would be considered a homunculi. There are some sort of AI creatures that possibly can be inhabited by other entities.
Very good point.
Yeah. So there is a lot of these this homunculi. Yeah.
So or are they? That was part of the download too. Was that it was basically we have till 2030. It seems like I don't know if I don't want to put a year on it saying I'm predicting because I don't know. I'm not trying to be an end of the world type person. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to do all that. But the point is, what if the Greys are us? What if the timeline splits at 2030, and you don't know what happened till it's too late? And the ones who chose to go with the false savior split timelines, right?
It's funny you say that because I've talked about that before too, where we could have a separation, but perhaps both sides don't even know the separation is going to happen. We're going to be overlaid on top of one another, and we'll just head off in this way, and they will continue heading off in this
exactly. And you won't know. So what if the gray aliens are the ones who get stuck in that timeline and they have to come back through time to harvest us to just continue to stay in existence? And that's the hell timeline. That's hell.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, I don't like hell timeline, but I like that theory. I like that theory. That's an interesting theory, Sal. Wow.
Full of them, Ryan. Full of them.
We could keep going on. I know we're getting close to the end here.
This is wonderful conversation, man. Thank you for having me.
It was good. Yeah, that experience was extraordinary. It was legendary. Like that is really intriguing, and I'm glad. And thank you for
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for giving me the platform, man.
Of course. So, Sal, is there any anything you want to plug? You want to plug your Instagram one last time here before we head out?
Salvatore Antithesis. It's kind of blown up over the past couple of weeks. Interestingly, it's at Salvatore_Antithesis, and that's TORE, not DOR. Italian, not Spanish. So I'm pretty open. I answer my DMs when they're not loaded. I'm happy to help anybody who's in earnest pursuit of truth, man.
All right, yeah, and I think that's all we can do is just pursue the truth, and don't be sold a lie. Research do your own work, and that was another thing that I was like, just trust the science. Like, sit down, relax, trust the science, and trust the plan. Right? Don't question it. Yeah. Always question. Always ask. No matter what. Even question me, question you, question everybody. Find your truth.
And watch you put your belief.
Exactly. Thank you so much,
Sal.
The
power is the engine.
Exactly. So, Sal, I want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Ryan. With best wishes.
Thank you. All right, everyone. That was my friend Sal with quite a extraordinary story Very intriguing, very intriguing. You know, we're kind of hitting these alternate timelines. When I was talking earlier about, you know, the man from Torrid, you know, appearing out of nowhere, not knowing, you know, said this existed. It's been around for 1,000 years. Well, has it? You know, maybe he's coming from another timeline. Maybe he's coming from, you know, the timeline of heaven, timeline of hell. I don't know. Different realities. So with that, everyone, you know, if you have a story to share, if you have an experience you want to share with me, please contact me at the Codex of Curiosities at gmail.com. Again, that's Codex of Curiosities at gmail.com. Now, with that, I think we're just going to wrap this up and bring it to an end. So keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home.
I look forward to our next adventure together as we navigate the mysteries that lie ahead. Until our paths cross again, keep your curiosity wandering and ensure the light remains lit.